She was just another face in the hotel, quiet, efficient, unnoticed. Each morning she cleared the plates, poured the coffee, and vanished without a trace. But one phone call changed everything. When her voice slipped into perfect Dutch, the millionaire at the table froze, his eyes narrowing in disbelief. Who was this woman? And why was she hiding a language few in the country even spoke? What happened next would unravel secrets neither of them expected, and expose a truth no one saw coming. For 3 years, Amara had worked in the city's most luxurious hotel. She moved like a shadow through its marble halls, always on time, always invisible. Guests barely looked at her except to request extra towels or clear their plates. She didn't mind. Blending in meant staying safe. Every morning at 6 a.m., she slipped into her crisp uniform, tucked her braids under a cap, and began the quiet routine she knew by heart. Fresh linens, polished silverware, the scent of coffee drifting from the kitchen. But beneath her calm exterior lived a world she never shared. Languages, stories, and a past she kept locked away. Because in this city, being a black immigrant already drew enough eyes. No one here needed to know more, until one morning, a simple phone call would break that silence and shatter the wall she'd spent years building. It started like any other breakfast service. Polished cutlery laid out under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, hushed conversations mixing with the clink of coffee cups. Amara moved quietly between tables, her hands steady, her face unreadable. Then her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She never answered it while working, but the name flashing on the screen made her chest tighten. She stepped discreetly into a corner and lifted the phone to her ear. Her voice shifted instantly, warm, fluent, and melodic, in flawless Dutch. The words flowed like water, private and meant only for the person on the other end. But in the far corner of the dining room, a man stopped mid-bite. His silver fork hung in the air, his gaze locked on her. He was no ordinary guest. This was Peter Van Dahl, a millionaire businessman with a reputation for knowing everyone who mattered in Europe. His eyes narrowed as if trying to place her, searching his memory for her face. And then, in a voice just loud enough to turn heads, he asked the maitre d' to bring that maid to his table. Amara's stomach dropped. The room suddenly felt smaller, every whisper bouncing off the marble walls. She walked toward him slowly, the air heavy with curiosity. He didn't ask her name at first. Instead, he said, "Where did you learn to speak Dutch like that?" His tone wasn't friendly. It was sharp, probing, as if she had no right to know his language. Before she could answer, he leaned back in his chair, looking her over from head to toe. "People like you," he said quietly, "don't usually speak it so well. Where are you really from?" The words stung, not because of what he said, but because of what they meant. She was already being judged, her skill turned into suspicion. The table next to his fell silent, eyes darting between them. Amara forced a polite smile, but her hands trembled at her sides. She wanted to walk away, but the maitre d' was still standing nearby, watching as if she had no choice but to answer. And she knew. One wrong word could cost her this job. Peter's questions came faster, each one carrying a sharper edge. He wanted details about her childhood, her family, her education, as if she needed to prove she had earned the right to speak his language. And with every answer, his expression hardened, as though each word she spoke only deepened his doubt. Then came the question that made her blood run cold. "Do you have any idea who I am?" In that moment, Amara understood. This wasn't curiosity. It was a test, and failing it could mean much more than losing her job. The dining room felt frozen in time. The clatter of plates, the murmur of conversations, all gone. Every eye seemed to be on Amara, and the man who refused to let her simply exist without explanation. Peter's voice grew louder. his questions sharper, each one landing like a blow. Who paid for your education? Was it some program? Charity? Or did you just pick it up cleaning floors for Dutch tourists? His smirk carried the weight of every stereotype she had spent her life outrunning. Amara's breath came faster. She could feel the heat rising in her chest, but she kept her back straight. She answered calmly, telling him she had studied at a university in the Netherlands, that she had worked hard for years to master the language, but he didn't hear her, or maybe he didn't want to. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with accusation. You people always have a story, but the truth? You don't belong in our circles. Gasps rippled through the room. The maitre d' shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. No one said anything. In that instant, Amara realized she was standing in the middle of a silent jury. The wealthy guests, the polished staff, all of them watching but unwilling to intervene. Her years of quiet dignity, of blending into the background, had bought her no shield from this moment. Her hands clenched at her sides. She wanted to walk away, but something inside her refused to retreat. She met his gaze, steady, unflinching, and said, "The only circle I need to belong to is my own." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Peter's face darkened, and he stood, towering over her. The next words out of his mouth would change everything, not just for Amara, but for everyone in that room. Peter's words hung in the air like a challenge, but before he could say more, something unexpected happened. The room, once heavy with silence, began to stir. Some guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. A few whispered among themselves. The invisible walls that kept Amara isolated started to crack. Amara didn't wait for permission or approval. She turned away, her heart pounding but her spirit unbroken. That day, she realized something profound. No amount of doubt, prejudice, or discrimination could erase her identity or the strength she carried inside. Her story isn't just about one uncomfortable encounter in a grand hotel. It's a reflection of the countless moments millions face every day when skills, talents, and humanity are questioned because of the color of their skin or the language they speak. This isn't just Amara's battle. It's ours. It's a reminder that beneath the surface of polite smiles and elegant facades, racial injustice continues to lurk, silently, persistently, painfully. So, what can we do when the millionaire stare becomes the gaze of society? How do we break down the barriers that hold us back? The answer isn't easy, but it starts with seeing each other fully, beyond stereotypes and assumptions. It begins when we listen to stories like Amara's, not with judgment, but with empathy and action, because every voice deserves to be heard. Every person deserves to belong. And the real question is, will we be brave enough to change,